Welcome to Healing Generations, a podcast creating a dialogue uplifting the importance of healing, strengthening, and supporting our communities, and that addresses the disparities and inequities in communities of color. Healing Generations is brought to you by the Healing Generations Institute, a collaborative initiative of the National Compadres Network and the Brotherhood of Elders. Be sure to subscribe to stay up to date on our new releases.
Welcome. This is Jerry Tello with the National Compadres Network and the Healing Generations podcast. And we want to welcome you today to another journey where we begin to reflect on the generations of medicine and healings and teachings that our ancestors have left us. And at the same time, recognize that we got to do the work to heal the generations of trauma and issues that have come to us personally, our families, and our communities, so we can move on in a good way and fulfill our ancestors' wishes that way. And so thank you for joining us. As we do always I want to begin by thanking Creator and thanking the ancestors. And as I do that, I want to acknowledge your ancestors, your people, where you come from, your great-grandmas, great-grandpas, all those relatives that are in your DNA, that are in your spirit, that are in your blood, that are in your heart, that are in your purpose. We want to acknowledge them for what they have done, but also acknowledge them for making you. We also want to acknowledge the greater community, the barrios, the neighborhoods that we live in, and in that way. And as we do that, we recognize the duality of what's going on. You know, probably some wonderful blessing things that are going on, but it's a tough time right now too. So we want to breathe in and pray for that community and bring that into this conversation today. We also want to acknowledge your families, our families, blood-related, love-related families that way, and offer goodness and prayers and wholeness to them. And then we think about the world that we live in, the greater world that we live in. We know there's a lot of stuff going on, right? So we pray for that, for the goodness of that, for the healing, for the justice that needs to go on, for the movement that needs to go on there. And then finally, we come to ourselves individually, and I'd like you to take a deep breath just for acknowledging yourself and that breath that came from your mama. When she released you into this world, we waited for your breath. And when that breath came, the ancestors rejoiced because there's another dream that was fulfilled. And so we thank you. We acknowledge the land that we sit on, wherever you are. I'm on the Tongva Gabrielino land. I want to acknowledge my relatives there and make a commitment and promise that we're going to honor and walk in a good way, but also, advocate for our indigenous relatives that not only honor the land, but that they can get that land back so they can continue with the prayers and blessings that way. And as we do that, we honor this moment that we have today with you, as we listen and share, and then hopefully share these teachings with others as well. And, with that, I'm very grateful because I have with us today, a friend of mine, man, a colleague, a friend, a compadre, a leader in the community that has been doing this work for a lot of years, probably like 30 years, man. And he's very diverse in his walk and his way. He's been a producer, educator, mentor, community organizer, even on one side, he did several number one rated hip hop radio shows for 92.3 The Beat. I listened to The Beat, man. Yeah. And all over the world has spoken and shared and done blessings and teachings and ceremonies to so many, many people, right? But he also, for more than 15 years, has been the Los Angeles County Human Relations Commission as a senior human relations specialist, and so much more. We could talk about all those things today. I'm talking about Fidel Rodriguez, and to me, Fidel is just a tight brother, man. He's somebody that you can rely on and count on, always speaks truth. And, when stuff comes down, you want Fidel in your corner there because he steps up that way. But just a good person, good heart, good spirit. And, Fidel, I just want to thank you, brother, for joining us today and offer you the opportunity to greet the folks that are listening.
Thank you, Jerry. That was a beautiful opening. I feel like we're in ceremony already. Thank you for your voice and your leadership. For all of us, all of us that have been on this road. Just want to greet you, Haku, in the Chumash, the Shmush language of the Chumash. Also want to, in the Yoruba, they say burabuye. So I just want to also greet you and the basic hello, everybody. I'm very honored to be here. Very blessed to be here to have this conversation with you, Jerry. I'm very honored that you even asked me. So with that, let's go on the journey.
Yeah, brother. Yeah, I appreciate you, man. And always the beginning, that conocimiento of, when we greet each other, we say, what's up, orale, and that orale, people don't realize that ora, is that prayer. I pray for you. I pray for your people, When we say orale, I pray for you, pray for your people that way. People don't understand that vario term like that is really sacred that way. And so in saying orale to you, I want to invite you to share about who you are, who your people are, where your relatives come from, and your journey here.
Okay. Well, we could also say in la cash, right?
Yeah.
It's funny. Even before I opened this, I have a book of just things that I write down sometimes, and I was looking up this Zulu phrase called sawubona, which means I see you, right? I see you. We are one. Mitako o yasin, right? All these beautiful terms that really show that we're reflections of each other. And I guess I'll just, share a little bit about my beginnings. That's why it's always a trip for me to kind of reflect even what we're talking about right now, because as a young person, I knew nothing of this at all. Zero. I grew up, born and raised in Santa Barbara. I come on my mother's side, 8 generations of family in Santa Barbara. My father is from Michoacan, born in Michoacan, but most of our family on my dad's side are from Jalisco, from Guadalajara area. Grew up, born and raised, as I said. My mother met my father at a party. They met, obviously some stuff happened, and 9 months later I was born.
Some stuff happened.
Some beautiful stuff. Some love happened. Some connections happened. And, like many of our journeys, it wasn't all party. There was some, obviously now we can call it trauma. There was some trauma, some chaos that was going on as I was a child. And so I say all that to say is that because my mom said, she said I was jumping out of the crib. Like I've always been a very active person. I had some experiences. I was kicked out of every grade from my second grade until my senior year in high school. I was I guess I was very angry. And I was always getting into fights. I was stealing. I would lash out at teachers sometimes. There was a teacher, and I think in the 3rd grade, I was being kicked out of class, and I was walking. She was walking, holding my arm, kind of dragging me to the office. And I asked to get a drink of water, and I was drinking the water out of the faucet, and I turned, just spit on her face. And I say that because it's like that. I remember these memories very vividly, right? And I went to an elementary school. It was called McKinley Elementary, same elementary school my mother went to. Our family lived right on the bottom of a hill called Cliff Drive. It's right on the bottom of Santa Barbara City College, if anybody knows of the area. Pretty much Mexicanos, Chicanos in that neighborhood. Most of my elementary school was shut down during Proposition 13, if everybody remembers that back in the 70s. It shut down my school, and then I was eventually bused to a predominantly white school for my second part of my elementary. So I think that's really where I started to kind of see these dynamics of race come into play, race and class for myself. And like, as I said, was getting into a lot of trouble with steal stuff from the school or houses or what have you. I started drinking at 12 years old. My dad was not really in the house at all. My mom pretty much was raising me by herself, struggling, dealing with, my dad being out in the streets, not coming home. And I just kind of the only times that I was really good and settled is when I was playing sports. I was raised at the Boys and Girls Club in Santa Barbara. I was really good in basketball and football and soccer. And most of my friends at that time were Black. That's kind of who were in my neighborhood in front of the West Side Boys Club in Santa Barbara. And so I kind of learned how to be a good athlete. I was not the best athlete in my group, but all my friends were really good athletes. So I think that has always kind of like, lent itself for my athleticism, even what I do today. But all that to say, I started drinking at 12, started getting put on probation. I was arrested at 7 years old for stealing some cassettes out of a record store at 7. They arrested me. They took me to the police station. They took a mugshot of me, both front profile and side profile, gave that Polaroid to my mom and told her if I continued down this road, I would end up in prison. This is at 7 years old.
Wow.
So had all these little things kind of like happening in my life. At 16, started selling cocaine. My dad was a cocaine dealer at that time, and I used to steal cocaine from his house, and I used to sell it to all the rich kids in Santa Barbara. So you look at Santa Barbara as a dichotomy of class of the rich, the elite, the haves, and the have-nots. And we're all kind of thrown together. We all went to the same high school. We played sports together, et cetera. So at 16, 17, I was selling cocaine. At 18, I got kicked out of the high school because I was... me and a guy named Chris Beamer and another brother named James Hoover, rest in peace, got caught for stealing the VCR of our football team. We went to go sell it. We were just being traviesos. We went to sell it to go smoke some crack. And we did that and then came back Monday to school, and the Santa Barbara Police Department were there to arrest us all. But what happened was, and I lead us up to this story, is that because there was a man named Bill Jackson. He was a principal of my high school, and he had pulled me into the office to talk to us about them knowing that we had stole the VCR. And while he was discussing the allegations towards us, he opened up a folder, and he showed me the folder, and he was showing me all the, all the public records of me being in school, from elementary, middle school, up until high school. And he said, "You see this orange dot right here?" He's like, "This was in the 4th grade." He's like, "You know what this means, Fidel?" And I was like, "No." And he goes, "It means you were labeled a gifted and talented child." He's like, "You were intelligent, but because of all the social issues you were having, they kept passing you. Nobody wanted to deal with you." I say that to say, because that was the first time that I was like, "What do you mean? Like I'm smart?" And so all that to say, he still kicked me out of school. I went to Santa Barbara City College to earn the credit so I could come back the next year, because I was going to be the first person in my family to graduate high school on my mom's side. But it's kind of interesting. So this man, this big 6'1" white man, kept checking in on me. I wasn't even a high school student anymore, because my mom would call him because she felt like he was somebody she could trust, because I was selling cocaine. Then I started selling ecstasy. I did probably 18, 19, 20, I was selling a lot of ecstasy. I got 2 DUIs, 17 year and 21. I got a DUI in Ohio. That's a whole nother story. But at 22 years old, and this is kind of where I'll leave us, because it's where really my journey starts, I was arrested with 3 felony batteries. I had went out on my 22nd birthday. I had blacked out, and I had went out and went into a 7-Eleven store, and I guess I knocked 3 people out. I was trying to get some beer, and I guess it was already past 2 a.m, and I guess I became extremely violent on 3 people and knocked them out, put them in the hospital. Ended up going to my arraignment. My public defender as a kid was now a private attorney. He saw me walking out of my arraignment, had a long conversation with me the next day, told me if I checked myself into an outpatient rehab, he would be my attorney. He wouldn't charge me. Long story short, his ex-wife was the district attorney on my case. There was videotape of what I did, and I walked with 1 misdemeanor battery, and obviously formal probation for 5 years. But then that 1 year from 22 to 23, somebody gave me the autobiography of Malcolm X, and literally that's why I'm here talking to you today. That's a quick summary.
Wow. I thank you, brother, for being so open about your journey, But, as you were talking, I was feeling that little boy and everything that little boy went through, trying to figure out this world. And it must have been heavy, because heavy gets us angry. Confucius gets us angry. Blaming gets us angry. People shaming us gets us angry, And then we got to do something, because the anger and the hurt and the shame gets too much. We got to shut it down. I know working with young people, they say, these demons are in my head. I got to shut them down. That's why I smoke this blunt. That's why I take that drink. That's why I, snort this stuff, man, because it just gets too much, So I want to honor that little boy, that in whatever way you had to do it, he had to do it. He didn't give up, trying to find that answer, trying to find someone that would acknowledge, you know what, you're pretty bright. You're pretty smart. You're not just all this other stuff. And then acknowledge what we rarely acknowledge. Many, many times along that journey, and in my own travels, and my own family, my brother getting locked up, and so many relatives, there's so many chances that we get that we could have been locked up or dead. We could have not been here. We could have really been jacked up really bad. But you must have some very strong ancestors. You must have some very strong prayers that came from your mama or whoever that says, no, give him a little more time. Help him out just a little bit. Protect him. Don't make him do all that time. He's going to do good for somebody. I could see it, and I just want to, as I feel that little boy, I also want to acknowledge those people that prayed for you, that believed in you, that in spite of all your craziness, the little kid being angry, spitting on teachers, stealing shit, that's not an easy youngster to deal with. But in spite of that, there were some people that prayed for you and loved you up in spite of that, So I appreciate you sharing that, because I know it touched me, and it reminded me of my own family. It reminded me of those times in which, you had those feelings like you weren't worth nothing and you didn't know what to do about it, And it makes me appreciate you more and marvel at all that you've done, My question then is, what got you through up to till 20? What got you through, man? What was it? What were the teachings or lessons or blessings that somebody gave you? Somebody, what was it? Who was it that got you through, at least through 22? And then we can talk about from there on.
Yeah, I think the first person I'm going to acknowledge is my mom. My mom, man, she put up with a lot,
Yeah.
I'm not going to sit here and badmouth, my experiences by my parents. I love both my parents, and they're still both in my life. But, as you're on this journey to heal yourself, you begin to recognize the realities that your parents went through, and the realities that your grandparents went through, and your great-grandparents, right? And I have to acknowledge my mom, and she raised me and my sister. Oh, man, she did so much for us, man. Despite, it's embarrassing for a mom to have to go and constantly go to the school to pick up their son from being suspended, or, it's like, what did Fidel do now? And probation officers saying, he's just an F up, or, people talk, and, my partner she walked into my house for the first time years ago, and she saw this picture of my dad and my mom and me. I was probably 4 years old, maybe. And, it's a beautiful portrait of my dad and my mom. This beautiful portrait of us just before my sister came, and she said, oh, you look like a little travieso. But I took it so personal because I remember that's the when we go to family parties, I was that kid, but I saw it as a negative thing because I got into trouble all the time. Like, we'd be at the party and I would get a rock and I'd throw it in the street, car driving by, and break the windshield and hide and be like, ay, Fidel, es Fidel pinche travieso cabrón, And as a little kid, at the time you don't trip on it, but later as you get older, you're like, damn, I was, you know what I mean? Like the negative connotations. And so all that to say, there were so many people. I had mentors, the coaches that came into my life as a kid. Like, I can't say it was all bad because it wasn't. I had amazing times growing up. I had, like I said, I love sports. I had incredible football coaches that really took me under their wings and would tell my mom, oh, he has the capability to be an All-American. You should make sure he keeps playing football, blah, blah, blah. And, you know, you just, when you're 14, 15, 16, you know, I know because I work with these kids now. I'm like, damn, you don't listen. You just don't listen. And it's not that people didn't try to help me. It was just, I always tell the kids now, or even my own kids, I said, man, we didn't have the words trauma-informed care.
Right.
They just thought we were crazy.
Yeah.
They thought there's something. And then the racial aspects were really, you know, in Santa Barbara on a whole nother level. But coaches, you know, mentors, I can't really say in high school that I can remember one teacher that I really vibed with, or middle school. Elementary school, I had this teacher named Mr. Chu and Mr. Yoshida, Japanese and a Chinese teacher with a full class full of Mexican kids. But that was a really joyous time for me because we used to sing in class and we used to sing Charlie Brown. He used to because he would play the piano. But I say that because all those added to me, who I am today. And then, you know, like I said, getting to that 22, is my mom. I just got to keep saying my mom, you know, and we bumped heads. We bumped heads so much, you know, but she always prayed for me. She always was trying to help me. My mom worked as a janitor at UCSB from 11 at night till 7 in the morning. Till 7 in the morning. And it was hard. You know, there was times where we didn't have a house. We had to go stay with friends or relatives because things happened. And my dad never, you know, he wasn't paying child support.
Right.
And I saw my mom struggle. And, you know, it's one thing I think living in LA now for so long, it's like when you live in these domestic colonies, you're around your people. But when you grow up in a colony like Santa Barbara, where you're around rich people, it really makes you look at yourself like you're not anything. And that's not because we're not anything, but because of what society shows you. Right. You know, like you walk down a street and you look inside and you're like, God, how did they get that house? Because I don't even have a bedroom. I sleep on the floor. Yeah. You know? And so all that to say, when you asked me that question, I got to say my mom. My mom got me through those first 22 years of my life. Her prayers, her love. Again, we butted heads because I was hard-headed, you know, and I had a lot of trauma that I would discover later on as I went on this journey.
Right. Yeah. You know, and I hope the parents that are listening who got travieso kids like you, you know, maybe realize the impact that they can make just by not giving up on your kids. You could not like what they're doing. You can, you know, discipline all that, but just don't give up. Just don't give up, you know, because sometimes it takes all of us a long while to get the teaching, to get the lesson, to hear through the roar of society that makes us feel like we ain't nothing, that we don't matter, that we're not worth anything, that we're stupid. Because that's the roar many times in society about it, especially now. Especially now, we're not wanted. You know, I mean, but based on how we look, you know, we could get taken out right away. You know, I mean, I have never thought of just on me traveling any place to do a presentation or something, carry my passport with me. I'm carrying it now. Shit, I got my license. I was born here, but shit, now, you know, because again, that fear that I remember when I was a kid growing up in Compton. So it's crazy. But you then said at 22, you read Malcolm. And that started another part of your journey. Talk about that.
Oh, man. We talk about medicine a lot, right? And I'm going to quote Luis Rodriguez. He had that term, I was a throwaway kid, right? And I think Malcolm came into my life. Oh, man. He was that next journey, right? When I read the autobiography of Malcolm X, I begin to understand the realities in which my environment had showed me, right? The issues of class, obviously the issues of race, and also the issues of me not knowing who I am as a dark-skinned kid, right? Who in times in high school, I used to be like, nah, man, I'm Italian. I'm Sicilian, right? I'm, as Rudy Acuna says, I'm anything but Mexican, right? Malcolm opened a door for me to begin to understand, like, oh, when my elementary school got shut down because of Proposition 13 and we got bused from the barrio up to the mesa where people with homes lived, and the kids would throw rocks at our bus and call us wetbacks, go home, which I had no context for it in the fifth grade. Reading the Malcolm, it started to make sense, right? It was giving me context and a better understanding to know, like, oh, this is a byproduct of racism. Or working with my mom as a janitor, we used to clean stockbroking firms in Santa Barbara, like late at night. And there's an aura of racism that you can feel by a look, a glance, or not even a hello, right? And when you don't have an understanding of where that comes from, I think for me, I took it inside, and it made me not feel very proud of who I am. But I didn't know who I was. I didn't know anything about my Mexican culture. I didn't know anything about my Chumash culture. I knew nothing about the black blood that I carry in my ancestry. I knew any of that, none of that. However, I grew up around nothing but Mexican and blacks, right? And it was just an interesting thing to read Malcolm's journey, and then also parallel elements, right? The anger, the violence, the drugs, the trauma in the home, right? I'm not going to go back and look at some of those things that happened in my journey in terms of like the abuses that I went through, but I'm going to say that I need to kind of, let you know that I understand now why why I was the way I was.
Right.
And Malcolm opened up that door so I could go heal myself. It's like there's a saying that says our narratives is our humanity. And Malcolm's narrative gave me back my humanity. It helped, it made me go back to school, right? Where I ended up meeting another huge person that changed my whole life named Tony Jackson. He was a professor. He came into my life and just lit my whole life up. He taught me the concepts of colonization. He taught me about indigenous spirituality. He said, you're taking my African-American class here, but you need to go learn about your native and indigenous heritage and your and your Mexican heritage. And that set me off on a whole nother realm, right? So Malcolm was very pivotal and very significant. I mean, to this day, I still read his book to this day. I still utilize concepts and quotes that I feel like were so far ahead of his time. You know what I mean? To understand even what's happening today with this country and the white supremacy that's going on that has been exported, right? Because that was another element that also opened up my eyes, was traveling around the world and living in Africa and seeing these dynamics. But Malcolm, he was a godsend, he truly was. He helped me reconnect to my heritage. He helped me love myself more. He helped me love my family more, right? And really, I'm still on that journey because of that one book that I got to read.
Yeah. Well, it's that in la quech, that reflection when somebody puts a mirror in front of you where you recognize yourself, in your totality, in the struggle, but also in your beauty. It begins to say, there's balance here. There's something that I can transform to really fulfill what I need to fulfill. It's so essential, in that process. And so how did you go from there to then get into this community work and the stuff that you're doing that you then went on to do as a producer and mediator and mentor, and how did you get there?
Oh man, I think what happens is when you plant a seed of consciousness in somebody, you start going down that road, right? So the basic things. So Mr. Jackson taught me when I was in school how to set short-term goals to reach long-term goals, right? And I began to take classes, African history, Chicano studies, Chicano art, Native American history, all these things. And I started to take access to programs, right? And while I was at Santa Barbara City College taking these classes, I ended up going to Mexico and studying Cuernavaca. That opened up my eyes, right, into our history, learning Spanish, better than I knew, when I was a kid. And then setting a goal I wanted to go to UC Berkeley, and I had the GPA, but I needed to stay another semester, and I didn't want to stay in Santa Barbara another semester because I was probably going to get in, I just wanted to get out of Santa Barbara. And I ended up getting to USC.
Wow.
And got into USC in 1993, moved to South Central LA, lived on Normandy and Adams.
Yeah.
And that became my next journey, right? I took several classes, obviously. I was the first to graduate in the American Studies program at USC, the first to dual major out of USC in Chicano Studies and African American Studies. But that experience at USC allowed me to travel the world. One of my years, I took off and I went to Zimbabwe, which is in southern Africa, right above South Africa. And I went there because of Bob Marley and his album, his music, right? Zimbabwe, the song that he did. And I moved there by myself. I was the only Chicano probably in southern Africa at the time.
Wow.
And was just embraced. And there I got to learn, and you'll love this, I think, Jerry, in Zimbabwe, the Shona are the indigenous people there. And their language has about 376 dialects.
Wow.
But it doesn't have one word for I. It doesn't exist. The context is all about we, right? How did you sleep last night? Well, I slept well if you slept well. Oh, I slept well, thank you. And it's all in their language, right? You say goodbye. I say goodbye to you, Jerry. I say ticha onana. It means we will see each other again, right? So as I was journeying to, discover myself and find these concepts, I began to analyze capitalism. I began to analyze pre-colonialism. I was searching. So when I got to SC, I was having these ideas in my head that said, okay, I was raised Catholic, but I know that came with colonialism. So what did my ancestors study before? Like, what did they practice? Like, I didn't know. And it was very, and here and there, I would take a class here. I took a mind civilization class, and I was just searching, and going to Africa. God, I had really connected. I connected with some shamans there. I did some divination systems there that I kind of were privy to. And I'm talking about outside of Harare is the main city in Zimbabwe, and it's a small city. So when I say I'm out 8 hours up in the bush, so to speak, connected with people that don't speak English, and still speak their indigenous language and are connected to the earth, connected to their ancestors, to a completely different way of life, right? So all these things started to just inform me, right? So I come back from this trip, and at the time, prior to me going to Zimbabwe, I was interning at the Beat while I was in school. And all these things, these experiences in school, these experiences working with kids, I was always working with kids. Even when I was getting in trouble, I was like a youth leader. I was coaching, football teams. Yeah, I mean, that's what I'm saying. It's like, now that I look at my life, it was good and bad. It was yin and yang, right? And so as I was gaining knowledge, I was doing workshops in Watts. I was doing workshops in South Central. I didn't know anything. I was 25 years old with a heart that just wanted to hopefully touch another young person's heart and give them an opportunity to see a little bit of what I'm seeing, right? That there is something else out there that they're not telling us about. And so coming back from this trip in Zimbabwe, I ended up getting hired as a associate producer on a show called Street Science with Dominique DePrima. And then I get another mentor comes into my life, right? Somebody who had a vast array of knowledge, not just in media. She had 7 Emmys, coming from NBC, and she was technically coaching myself and other people in our group how to produce a TV show, but it was a radio show. And here I was seeing a major market company, right, teaching over the radio airwaves and affecting change in the community. And I just got lit with that. I wanted to be a teacher. And I think what ended up happening is I began to utilize media as a platform to be able to share all these lessons and things that I was kind of like learning along the way. And that exposed me to being connected and mentored by ex-Black Panthers. That exposed me to being connected to Indigenous practitioners. That exposed me to just an array of stuff to this day still assists me in all the work that I'm doing.
Wow. So, because you talk about the work, but what did it infuse in your daily life? What did you change in your life to help balance that anger? Because I know it's still there. I know that anger is still there. That travieso little kid is still there. So what did you learn from dealing with these really grounded people, holy spiritual people that had you either change the way you do things or begin to do some different things?
So there was an incident that happened. I won't be specific. While I was working at the Beat, where I got extremely upset at somebody in the recording studio, and I hit the wall, right? And the wall was, they're padded because of it's a studio,
right?
But I shook the whole wall, right? And a mentor who was at the station pulled me into the office and had a long conversation with me and said that your ancestors are pissed off. And I don't like to talk to people about my spirituality, but you need to go and get yourself a reading. And I had no idea what they were talking about. And so I took them up on what they were sharing with me, and I went to get a reading. And this reading was in a African tradition known as Ifa. Some might know it as Santeria. But the source of it is Ifa, and it's from Nigeria. It's the traditions that were brought over during the slave trade and went through, obviously, the Caribbean. It's huge in Mexico. It's called Candomblé in Brazil. Obviously, it's in Colombia and Venezuela, etc. But so you asked about these pivotal points that have happened in my life. It was my mother, obviously, being the foundation of just never giving up on me, right? It was Malcolm opening up my eyes to knowledge. It was both Mr. Jacksons, who were both immense mentors in my life. And then there was Ifa, which was reconnecting me to not only my ancestors, but was giving me ancient spiritual tools to remove energy off of my soul to heal myself and to get me to a place where I feel like I'm just opening up that road now, what we call suru. Suru means patience, right? We have a saying, it says, cool-headedness is the father of all character. An elder who has calmness, a cool-headed elder has everything, has control over his or her actions. And I say that because when we're calm, right? The West likes to call it equanimity. We're at peace, right? Our amygdala is present, right? It's in the relaxation response. So that journey from I got into Ifa at 25, I think. I'm 56 now. I'll be 57 in a couple months. That journey has been consistent discipline on going through initiations, lots of initiations in Nigeria, lots of ceremonies here. And it's been a long, hard road, man, to get to where I'm at. But you asked specifically, me reconnecting. And here's the funny part too, Jerry, I'll share with you. So, because people especially at USC, people are like, man, why are you into that black stuff? You're always into that black stuff, man. Don't you know? I said, yeah, I'm into all of it, brother. This is who I am. You want to see a picture of my great grandmother? You know, she looks like she just got off the boat. that's my ancestry. But I just knew from things that I've seen and what I felt. 2012, I'm going to get initiated in Nigeria, and my sister goes and does for herself the DNA test, right? To see kind of like what's in our DNA.
Mm-hmm.
And we had 12% Yoruba blood, right? That is the people in which the Ifa tradition is from. So was I guiding myself this whole way, or the ancestors just guiding me?
So it's your grandmother calling you home.
Okay.
Just come here. I got you.
I got you.
Let me teach you. Let me remind you who you are. You come from a sacred people. Come practice our ways. I sing for you. I pray for you. I wait for you. And you responded.
Yeah. And it's something, Jerry, that I had been in this tradition almost 30 years. It saved my life. So you have that anger got calmed. It's still there.
Yeah.
But when I get pissed off, I go play tennis. I read a book, and things don't piss me off too much anymore. They really don't. I'm like, I kind of see it as energy now.
Yeah.
So if somebody's throwing me something, I like Tai Chi, Wing Chun, let me evade this. And I'm human. Obviously, there's things, but it has allowed me to reflect deeply on every choice that I make in life now, right? You're looking at a system that I would say is technically one of the original computers, right? You have a binary mathematical system. You know what binary mathematics is, right?
Yeah.
Okay, ones and zeros. The divination system for Ifa is 256 markings, original markings of that binary code. There's over 1,600 stanzas to each of those, right? When a person gets a divination, they utilize a tool that basically touches the person's head, touches their chest, and it gets thrown on the earth. That gives that person the past, present, and future information that they're seeking in order to make their lives be imbalanced, right? Be balanced, so to speak. And so along the way, I've been able to like deeply study all this stuff, and I began to say like, damn, all these people, whether it's Elon Musk or Albert Einstein or all these people that are trying to figure out what the hell is at the end of string theory, it's our traditions. They already knew it. And we as Africans and as indigenous people of this continent are searching to get validated or to seek out validation of how the world works from Western culture when our cultures had it all along. And I have more than enough experiences personal to share that, but I obviously I'm around elders that function on, I don't know what we want to call it, on a very high spiritual plane. And I wouldn't change anything. I'm blessed. I'm honored that my ancestors didn't give up on me. I'm honored that what we call the orishas, just aspects of nature,
right,
are there to take care of me and to take care of my family, and have made me everything that I am because I've listened. I've learned how to listen to the elders. I've learned how to listen to, the spirits. I've learned how to understand that also I'm not in control over this. Right? I only have control of how I react to things. And this tradition has put an equanimity within myself, Jerry, that I'll cherish until the next journey.
You mentioned a couple of things that I just want to lift up. You mentioned patience, right? And in all of our cultures, we recognize that there's the sacred movimiento, the sacred olin that moves, right? But part of that is recognizing that in that journey, in that movement, sometimes it's really important. It's part of the ritual for us to stop and sit and be quiet and listen. so that we can hear the teachings that are coming, so that we can embrace and feel the medicine that is coming that way, so we can embrace the counsel that is coming that way, but also so that we can feel the joy. And this society has filled us with this teaching that you always need to be moving, which is really not movement, it's motion. Be in motion, doing something, making noise. We can't even be quiet. We always got our minds, and so that the sense of being able to be patient and to be silent. And one of the most sacred medicines that you can give yourself and give someone else, which is the reason I'm saying it now is because I'm really, embracing this, is listening. Listening to the earth, listening to the sun, listening to those birds in the morning, listening to your breath, listening to your elders, listening to people that are crying, listening to people that are hurting, listening to my grandson who just is in so much joy. And the way that he explains things very different than my reality, but listening to him to be able to connect. That sense of listening is a sacred medicine, And so that you have come to that place and found a way to balance that anger, anger is a teacher too. It's not bad. Anger is not bad. It's one of our teachers. But that you're able to filter it through the patience and the listening then allows even your anger to be a teaching medicine for you,
Yes.
And I know that has informed a lot of the work you're doing today, So I want to invite you to talk a little bit about, because you're doing some heavy work, man. It's right live right now. All the, it's taking you to a place of, you're talking about anger, man. You're in the midst of a world and a society that wants to provoke us to be angry, provoke us to react, provoke us to stop listening to ourselves and our ancestors and teaching and just react to it. So can you share some of the work that you're doing now?
Yeah, God, there's so many things I want to share with you. My mind is running. So currently one of my jobs is I work for the LA County Human Relations Commission, and I'm a part of a team that works on an initiative called LA versus Hate. And that initiative sets up a response, a toll-free number that people can call living in LA County to report hate, any hate incident, any hate act that happens in LA. And one of the elements within the LA versus Hate initiative is art interventions. And I'm blessed to be able to be part where I get to come up, with ideas and work in different communities to create art with, artists and community and really build solidarity. And so that's kind of like what I'm doing. I know I'm kind of like, it's detailed, but it's interesting because I am working for a government agency. And for me, I've been there, not almost 20 years. And sometimes I'm always, it's been pulling teeth working there because I'm in the belly of the beast.
Yeah.
I'm in a byproduct of colonialism. And you ask in these times, like, I'm always trying to get at the root of things, right? I'm always trying to get at the root of things. And so like in my work that I'm doing, because it informs everything that I'm doing, right? The community conferences that I help create, the art interventions, I'm working on a Palestinian community wealth project right now. Consciousness informs it all. That's really, at the end of the day, whatever work that I'm doing, it is from a place of consciousness, right? One of the things, and I think this maybe for people listening will kind of give you a good symbol. As a youngster growing up in Santa Barbara, I used to go by the street in Santa Barbara pretty much my whole life. It was called Indio Muerto Street. Okay. It means dead Indian for those who don't speak Spanish. I never put anything on that. It just Indio Muerto Street, right? But when I read the Malcolm book and then I started taking those classes with Mr. Jackson at the City College, And then I went by the street sign. I said,
Mm-hmm.
that shit says dead Indian. I'm Indian. Oh, hell no. I was like, that's gangster, right? And so I'm saying that to say is Carl Jung had a concept that he said, you have to make the unconscious conscious, right? And so my job, wherever I go, is to figure out how to make the unconscious conscious. What we're seeing with this administration is nothing new under the sun. Their symbols of white supremacy, white body supremacy are all around us. My job, I feel, why God has me on earth, on this earth, why the ancestors are with me all the time, is to invoke these things so we can heal ourselves. Sure. America is in need of its therapy session, right? So you have brought up several times about my anger, and I'm going to tell you what I think it came from, right? So I was molested when I was 4 years old, right? Violently, okay? Nobody knew. My mom and I have talked about it after, because when we talked, she's like, oh my God, this is when I was like 20. So my anger carried over to USC. So I wanted to kill white people because I was so pissed off, right?
Yeah,
Now I was pissed off at the system.
Yeah.
And so they sent me to a therapist while I was there. Her name was Dr. Tracy Shaw. Shout out to Tracy Shaw. She was a therapist for all the football players and the basketball players. So a mentor I had there sent me there, and that's where I discovered I was molested. All right. And so I started to understand like where this stuff was coming from. Right. So I'm bringing this up because as I had to go discover why all these things are happening to me, why am I reacting to this person, or why do I feel scared when this person said, and my first line of defense is like, what? Physically. Right. So I say that to say, as I've journeyed to heal myself and even forgive the woman that did what she did to me, it's been a long journey, but to where I can talk about it and it doesn't affect me, right? I say that to say is that's the micro. The macro is our country. It has done so much molesting, so much physical violence. I mean, it's truly America's horror story once you start dissecting it, right? And we just have never talked about it. Just like all of us have these traumas in our family, it's like America's history has not been told. It's in books, but how many people are diving into these books to kind of like uncover this? So when you ask kind of about the work that I'm doing now, I could be at LA versus A. I could be working at the probation department. I can go do a workshop with probation officers or LAPD officers. I am still going to start with the paradigm of consciousness and decolonizing. And if I say decolonizing, that means I have to talk about colonization, right?
Yeah.
Malcolm said, of all of our studies, history is best qualified to reward our research. That has never changed for me in 30 years. You talked about patience. I'm reading this narrative of a man named Dr. Benjamin Rush. I don't know if you've heard of him, Jerry, right? Known as the father of American psychiatry.
Right.
Guy was a nut.
Yeah.
He was a nut. That's where we get solitary confinement from, was from him, because he used to lock his children in a room. He said, spare the rod, lock them up in a room. 3-4 years old and up, lock them up, right? So I bring him up because this is so interesting. You talked about patience. And patience is calmness, right? So you know what the biggest vice he said Native Americans had? Idleness. Idleness. Okay? And then he couldn't find not one instance of melancholy, madness, and oh man, I'm forgetting the term. It just means stupidity.
Yeah.
You probably know the word. I'm forgetting it off the top of my head. But all that to say is, when you look at all these things of the things that we're trying to get, like idle, I'm like, man, I'm totally like, I'm living like, because I told you the other day, I was like, man, I spend most of my time out in the mountains.
Right.
Because I feel like that's how they got us.
Yeah.
If we're going to talk about this administration and what they're doing, we shouldn't be working 8 hours a day. We shouldn't be paying rent. we shouldn't, there's so many things that if we're going to decolonize, we really have to, Gabor Mate says the things that are causing everybody to be sick is a toxic culture.
Mm-hmm.
This toxic culture is what this capitalist system has been creating on us.
Yeah.
So for me, my job is to point that stuff out. And that's what I'm trying to do. And this is going to be funny with Ally versus Hate from my perceptions.
Well, no, but the reality is that, the first step of healing is acknowledgement.
Yes.
Acknowledge truth. And we as a world are not there because we don't acknowledge the truth. And the truth doesn't mean, good or bad. It just means what is. Until you acknowledge it, you can't heal it. You can't transform it. You can't learn from it. And so we keep repeating the same hateful, ugly, dysfunctional things in our society and then in our communities, and then it goes to our families, and then it goes to ourselves because we have not acknowledged the painful trauma that is generations old, man. And so, just you holding that space and vibing that message of can we at least speak truth? Can we at least acknowledge, what is hurtful, what is abusive, what is painful? We're never going to get there unless we do that. And I think that, what you're doing in communities, which is not easy because people are on all kinds of sides of this and are angry. They are angry and rightfully so. But that healing path starts with first that acknowledgement and then being able to, to have enough medicine in yourself to be able to sit with it and figure it out and not let it control you. And so, I know because we've had some conversations about the communities that you work in, and there's a lot of pain and a lot of injustice that's going on. And in that you have chosen to be the medicine that comes in to try and build a sense of patience and calm so that we can sit long enough to acknowledge what is really going on. And it's not just the pain that's going on, but let's acknowledge the cultural wisdom, the medicine, the resources we have to deal with that darkness, to deal with that hurt, so it's not duplicated and passed on to that next generation. That's heavy work, man. It's really heavy work. And, I really want to acknowledge you for you being willing 15, 20 years to be able to do this. And I know that, we talked recently, I know you go into the mountains and sitting in nature and connecting with nature and in your rituals and your traditions, that's what keeps you centered. That's what keeps you balanced. That's what keeps you growing, So, again, I just want to acknowledge all those teachers that have come in your life, the medicine that has been, sifted through you. But brother, I want to acknowledge you because you had to make a choice. You've had to make a choice and you got to choose it every day. What do you choose? Do you choose the medicine or do you choose, the trauma? What do you choose? What do you water today? Yeah. And I appreciate you for being so honest, for being so open, because you know what? So many of us and so many of our people have gone through what you've gone through, and are still ashamed of it. And let me just say to the audience, it's not your fault. What was done to you is not your fault, but it's part of your path. And so now you need to heal it. You need to work it. And so I just want to lift up the folks that are listening, if you find yourself, hurting and angry and depressed and doing things that hurt you or hurt, there's people out there. There's people out there that will embrace you. They will hold space for you. They will guide you. They will bless you up. But if you do nothing about it, then the body will keep the score, man. It will come back and haunt you in, illness and sickness that way. And really on all of us on our healing path, we want to really get to that way in which we can heal so that the next generation of folks have more blessing, more sacredness, and less pain.
Yeah.
Any thoughts or reflection on that?
I think one of the things that I wanted to acknowledge too, thank you too, Jerry. I appreciate your words and I don't take them lightly. I want to acknowledge a couple people. Luis Rodriguez has been in my life for almost those 30 years that we talked about, right? In and out as a mentor, as somebody that I could look up to, who I met, I think the first time was bringing him on the beat to be on the show. And also want to acknowledge Luis Ruan, who also came into my life, over a decade ago and has been a great mentor and a great elder and a great friend who I can talk with and bounce things off with. And I just want to acknowledge Nedra Williams. She's a woman up in the Bay Area who's been there for me as well. I love elders. I don't know why. I just always have. I've always respected them, and they're always in my life. I don't know why, and I cherish that.
You know why? You need them.
I need them.
Some damn elders in your life.
I do need them, man. And I hope too that even on this journey that I'd love to continue just to have with yourself conversations, because our last conversation left my heart feeling good. You have a very calming presence that comes and radiates when you speak. And so I just wanted to acknowledge you as well, because I think that's the biggest thing we can do against the system is change.
Yeah.
Because that energy radiates, right? Right. I met your son today. I don't know how many other kids you have, but I have 3 kids as well. And that's how we break the cycle.
Yeah.
We have to change. I can't tell my kids what to do. The only thing I can do is make choices for myself so they know I'm always going to be there.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
And it's something that I said I was going to do the antithesis of what my dad did.
Yeah.
And I have. And my dad's still in Tijuana, bouncing in the streets at an elder age. But he's told me, he's like, you're a good dad. You're a really good dad. You've been there for your kids. You love your kids. And that was my journey. Is I wanted to change. I wanted to make my mom proud. I wanted to make my sister proud. And, it's been a long journey, but it's been a beautiful journey too, to heal. And healing is possible. Yes. I want people to know that it is possible. It's a long journey. And I'm not saying I'm totally healed, but you know what? You can get to a place where life feels good. Yeah. Even the madness that is happening, we keep on struggling. We're going to be okay.
Yeah. Well, with that in mind, I want to ask you, what kind of counselor, consejos, would you offer this next generation, the younger you? What would you tell them? What do you think is important for people to know and to hear and to consider?
Oh man, I'm going to probably sound like an old or crazy guy. No, because it's a different generation. I work with youngsters coming out of juvenile hall right now and on probation, and it is a different generation, and it's not their fault. But I guess my practical consejo would be stay off your phone as much as you can, because I don't think we talk enough about the technology and its effect on our young people's mental health.
Yeah.
It wasn't present in my life.
Yeah.
And as a community, we don't speak about these things enough. I think the other thing would be, if there is a caring adult or mentor around that is around you and it, but you're not calling them or you're not listening to their advice, try to take that first step, because mentors, male or female, that come into your life can have such a huge, huge significance in helping you out. I'm a big proponent of therapy. I was put in therapy at 12 years old, and I don't go to therapy anymore, but I do have my therapist who I can do yearly check-ins or something pops up. She's another one, Dr. Guajardo, played a huge pivotal role in my life. So I would like to say, take the stigma, if there is a stigma about going to see a therapist. If you find the right one, I think they can be a tremendous help in your life. Yeah. And I think the most important, especially if you're struggling, reach out. Make sure you reach out to people if you need help. Because I think that's the biggest thing in this society right now is the whole aspect of loneliness.
Yeah.
Young people are, I think that's why I try to do what I do. Like I'm trying to organize a youth retreat right now. I'm a big proponent of getting young people out into nature because, and you take the phones away, they don't care about them after a while because nature is more powerful than, AI. AI is what? Artificial intelligence.
Yeah.
So what is artificial, Jerry? Isn't that fake? It's fake intelligence,
right.
So those are my consejos to young people.
Well, I appreciate that, and and we're going to substitute that AI of artificial for ancestral intelligence.
There it is.
Get our own AI going.
There it is.
And in speaking of that, I recognize it in you. I recognize that ancestral intelligence in you that embraced that little boy so he wouldn't give up. And along the journey, put some people in your life to keep you believing in yourself. And then, the wonderful mentors and elders of Malcolm and all the other people that you mentioned that have put you on that path. But then, I'm sure your children and your loved ones that really just kind of motivated you. But in the end, it's our decision, how we take all of this. And, so, I really just want to encourage the listeners to recognize, the beauty that lies in the transformation of pain, to medicine. And that in spite of whatever's happened to you or that you've done, you still are sacred. That our ancestral way knows that our soul is sacred and nothing can touch that. But we have to find a way to balance, the darkness with the light, the duality that way. And as our brother Fidel mentioned, if you need some support, and we all do, we can't heal by ourselves. We need others, and we need nature, and we need the sun, and we need those walks, and we need the hierbas, and sometimes a little bit of salsa and shit, sometimes a good donut, I don't know. But, the happiness, hear you laugh. Yeah. We need joy too. It's not all about sadness. Joy is medicine. Bring some joy. Call somebody up that needs some joy. Call them up and just say, man, I'm just thinking about you. If you're on that damn phone, okay, text them. You can text them too, But whatever you do, stay connected. Stay connected to the sacred part of yourself. Stay connected to your people, your ancestors. Stay connected to your community. And it's a time in which we must all come together in that sacred interconnection in Cloque Nawake, because this world and this country especially needs a reminder of who they really should be. Because you got a lot of people leading this country that are not about sacred interconnection or about values. They're about a whole other mentality. But we have a responsibility of making sure we bring that rhythm, those teachings, that medicine back to the forefront. And sometimes it's going to be standing at the front line of a march. Sometimes it's going to be changing policy. Sometimes it's going to be helping people out. Sometimes it's going to be in a sweat lodge. Sometimes it's going to be in a community. Sometimes it's going to be in our homes, playing with our kids. Whatever that is, do it, and do it with love and do it with dignity. Thank you all so much, for listening. Thank you for everything you do. Share this podcast with others. Give us some feedback on what you heard and the teachings that you heard, anything that helped you, and give us some suggestions on who else we can bring on, or maybe some other teachings. And, within that, let me remind you that you're your ancestors' blessing, your ancestors' dream. Go out and live it in a good way. Thank you very much. Klasa kamatli, Cloque Nawake, Ometeo.
For more information about Healing Generations and the Healing Generations Institute, visit nationalcompadresnetwork.org and be sure to subscribe to stay up to date with our new releases.